Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to start with a quote. The ears of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. Great president once said that. Mr. President, I rise today to make it clear to everyone in this chamber exactly why I cannot support this legislation. You've heard the chants outside this chamber, not just today and last night, but many times over the past 2 years. Thousands of people have shown up, union and non-union, men and women, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, even their children. These are the working families of Michigan. These are the thousands of people that I would sit here to represent. When I vote no, I'm voting no on behalf of the thousands of families. Who are you voting yes for? Grover Norquist? I know he sent you all a letter asking you to support this anti-worker legislation. You are voting yes because a handful of corporate lobbyists, a handful of fat cats in the back are telling you to. That's who you work for, the powerful few, the guys with top hats and monocles. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I work for the people, for the many. I proudly represent them in casting this no vote. I'm doing what's right, what's good for the people. And I tell you this, Mr. President, we will fight you. We will not let this stand. We'll fight you from Kalamazoo to Timbuktu. We'll fight you from the streets and in the suites. We'll fight you in the pit house and we'll fight you in the outhouse. And Mr. President, I'll tell you this right now, when it's all said and done, when it's all over, we will grab the thunderbolt of truth. We will grab the rod of revolution and we will have our victory. And the spoils will go to the working people of Michigan. And you will forever remember the day when you thought you could conquer labor. You were sorely mistaken. Be prepared to engage in the fight of your life. You might win this battle, but the wars are brewing, sir. The wars are brewing, sir. And we're coming, and we're taking no prisoners, and we're taking no quarter. And Mr. President, when all said is done, working men and women of this state will reign supreme. Thank you, and I ask that my comments be printed in the journal.
Hello, and welcome to the Young Effect. I am your state senator, Coleman Alexander Young II. Always a privilege and pleasure to be here with you live on TV 33, WHPR TV 33. You can also see us online at www.tv33whpr.com. As always, we want to honor the men and women serving us in Afghanistan. We want to honor all of our fighting men and women across the globe who fight for the good old rights we enjoy right here in the U.S. of A. We also want to honor our local heroes, our police officers, our firefighters, our emergency services personnel. We want to thank you for all the things that you do for us to keep us safe in this civil society. We want to pray for any of their fallen and anyone who has lost a loved one. We want to pray for you, and we want to make sure that we honor you. And they want to let you know that we're there for you, and we love you. So please join me for a moment of silence for the men and women who are serving us overseas in the military and their loved ones. Because man or woman never fight the battles alone. We also want to thank and pray for our local police officers who are out there on the front lines every day, who run into hails of gunfire, burning buildings, and who save lives. We love you. We appreciate you. Please join me for this moment of silence for them and for their loved ones. All right, thank you for that. And with that being said, we're going to get right into it. Always a pleasure. You can call in 313-868-0351, 313-868-4336, 313-868-0351, 313-868-4336. So you want to call in, whatever it is you want to talk about, please feel free to call in. We're looking forward to your phone calls. But right now, what I want to start the topic off with is a bill that I've introduced. It's gotten some play. It'll be on the television screen shortly. But bill that I've introduced, basically that will levy a 3% excise tax on anyone that buys sporting tickets or buys tickets to sporting events in our stadiums. So whether it be in Little Caesars Arena, whether it be in Comerica Park, anywhere where they are buying tickets to events or sporting events in our stadiums, this money will be used for directly and only for providing services, providing for our police officers, our firefighters, and our emergency services personnel. So this money cannot be used to balance the books of the city. This would be primarily for providing services or primarily for being able to allow police and firefighters and emergency services personnel to be able to provide the services necessary to keep us safe, whether it be a better standard of living, whether it be for them to get the equipment that they need, whether for be able to have the maintenance that they need for the vehicles that they have. These are things that they will be able to use, money that they'll be able to use in order to provide better services. So when you call 911, they show up. When you call the fire department, they show up, and they have the equipment they need necessary in order to eliminate and take care of the threat that's in front of them for the safety of our community. That is what this is for. That's what this money is for. It will be put in a lockbox, and it only can be used for firefighters, police officers, and emergency services personnel. That's the only thing that this can be used for. So if you got any questions or anything you want to talk about, any calls, please feel free. Sorry I wasn't here last week. It was Son of Man. We had to represent that and Savior's Day and all those things. So we got a caller. Calling you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, man, don't need nothing, don't want nothing.
All right.
But you know what? And I was going to ask you about that Senate Bill 884, but you explained it pretty good. Now, to this, who's it, State Representative Runstad, and there's another representative talking about wanting to arm teachers with guns.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about this before in various stations up and down the dial.
Well, aren't you a teacher?
I'm a retired teacher.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So, yeah, please share what you think about that. I mean, and then I'll tell you what I think about it.
Well, right up front, it's a recipe for disaster. I mean, to this point, at times, teaching can be very stressful, okay? And, you've got some teachers who are in there who are walking on the edge, and it wouldn't take a whole lot to push them off the edge. And what I'm talking about is if they're in a classroom, and some of these students, they're very bold, brazen, have very little or if any respect for authority, and they will get up in a teacher's space. And if that teacher feels threatened, possibly pull the gun, shot goes off or shot, you got a seriously injured, wounded student or dead, and depending upon how many shots you got off, you got collateral damage in that classroom because you've got 30 to 35, maybe 40 other students in that classroom.
Yeah.
And I'm not dealing with, an outside shoot. I'm talking about what's the deal inside. And not only that, but,
I'm not a big fan of turning our classrooms into war zones, or big fan of turning our classrooms into gun ranges. You know what I'm saying? or basically into OK Corral. I mean, that's basically what we have going on right here. I think, first of all, now what they're saying is that what the White House is saying about this proposal is that it's only going to go to people who are trained, who are well trained, particularly people or preferably people who either have law enforcement background or who have a military background who will be getting these weapons. But I just don't like the fact that we're putting our children in the middle of shootouts or in the middle of places where people are shooting guns and returning fire. I mean, you can look at what happened with this is a little bit different, but with the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, there was somebody that was there that was returning fire, that was armed, that was trained, and you still had one of the worst shootouts in one of the worst mass shootings in American history that took place there. Even with the Reese case in Parkland, there was an officer that was armed that was there that didn't even go into the building when this was happening. So listen, I just don't think that arming teachers I think teachers need raises and resources, not guns and vests.
Well, exactly. I mean, you arm teachers, like you said, with resources.
Right.
You know, with pens, pencils, books, and that kind of thing. And also, you lower those classroom sizes.
Right.
And as far as, like, say, protection, the car, the limousine, the Beast that President Obama rode in,
Right.
that's an armor-plated vehicle.
Right.
It's got bulletproof glass in it. Put the armor-plated doors on the school. Put the bulletproof glass in there as well.
Well, listen.
I mean, I'm not even a security expert, but if I thought about it, you know, I say this, leave it up to the experts to figure out how to do this thing in terms of securing the school. I'll bet you one thing. Runstad has never walked in my shoes in terms of what I did on a daily basis for 13 years.
Right.
And see, these people are up here coming up with these harebrained ideas. And, you know, they don't even know, you know, what teachers, you know, go through.
But only 10% of mass shootings happen in schools in the first place. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, to just have this idea, this lazy idea of let's just arm the teachers and arm, you know what I'm saying, it's going to just solve all the problems, ridiculous. I'm not necessarily, I mean, if that's something that we have to do in order to make sure that we do what I think is really necessary in order to get the reforms to stop this, let's like ban weapons of war and make sure that people can't go into a store and buy an AR-15. Let's raise the age from 18 to 21. There's no reason why an 18-year-old should have a gun that could fire 100 bullets, you know what I'm saying, in under a couple minutes. Well, you know, let's ban bump stocks that adapts a vehicle, adapts a weapon that turns it from semi-automatic to automatic. Let's make sure that we have universal background checks for people who are licensed dealers and people who are not. And make sure that we have universal background checks, not just on guns, but on ammunition. And we should have a limit of how many guns can be purchased. If you have somebody that's literally buying a small arsenal of weapons, I don't think they're just doing that for collection purposes.
Oh, heck no.
And limit high-capacity magazines. You don't need a 100-round drum in order to shoot geese.
Well, I mean, the bottom line comes, then I'm going to let you go. The bottom line comes down to this. Something like an AR-15 or AK-47, those things were built for one thing and one thing only, and that is to kill a lot of people in a very short period of time.
Right. And they got a bill right now that's basically not only going to lift the ban on silencers, but it's also going to lift the ban on armor-piercing rounds as well. This is not about hunting or now they're saying that the reason why they're going to lift the ban on silencers or allow more silencers to be put into the market is for noise suppression. But, you know, I mean, that's not what this is for. This is for people who are going to do ill will or malevolent things or malicious things with these weapons, primarily to kill people or to assassinate people with them. That's what this is. And, you know, I just don't understand why we can't. We've already had a ban on assault weapons.
Yep.
In 94, I don't know why we can't just have the same type of ban that we had before. And people are trying to act like as if the Second Amendment is an absolute right. It's not an absolute right.
Well,
The Second
you know
Amendment is
what,
not an
in
absolute right. In the Second Amendment, it says a well-regulated militia.
It didn't say nothing about regular people.
Right.
And you know what? But in terms of the Second Amendment, the First Amendment says that you have those unalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But the Second Amendment trumps that because guess what? I can go out and I can buy a weapon that ends your life, and you will no longer have
Right.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
It's of our
Because what?
school children. It's not. It's not even just about adult. I mean, we're literally putting our ideology over the lives of school children. I thought certainly after Sandy Hook, after what happened in Newtown, Connecticut, that there was going to be reform where you had 8-year-olds and 6-year-olds that were being shot and killed. Even in Parktown, in Florida, you had children who were being buried with military honors.
Yep.
Military honors. 14-year-olds that are being buried with military honors. I mean, is that the type of world and country that we want to live in?
Well, that's what
I don't
LaPierre
think
wants.
so.
That's what LaPierre wants, and the NRA.
Right. I mean, and let me say this too. If you can't, if you're on a terrorist watch list, you should not be able to buy a gun. We don't even have laws against that. And I think it's just outrageous. And I'm not saying that mental health isn't an issue. It is an issue. I'm not dismissing that. But, time out for saying let's have mental health for the shooter and then we're going to cut mental health funding for everybody else in America.
Right.
I just think that's just ridiculous. And I understand that we can fix the NICS system. I know in Michigan, we are one of 4 states that does not submit mental health data into the NICS system. We only submit it to our system, the state system, which is the LEAN system. That's the Law Enforcement Integration Network system. We should submit it to NICS, so they can have that information and that data as other states do. You know what I mean? But there's no reason why we can't do something on guns. But this cockamamie scheme to arm teachers as if this is going to be the panacea to get things done, as if a teacher has to be the difference between that person, a teacher, and an assault rifle. I mean, you're talking about guns that can fire hundreds of bullets within minutes.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Or 30 bullets with it, or 60 or even 60 or 80 bullets a minute. I mean, I just think that's just the price too much to bear. You know what I'm saying? And it is one thing when you get trained to do something. It's something different when it's one thing to be trained to do something. It's nothing different when you actually have to be in that environment.
Yeah, when the rubber hits the road.
Right. I mean,
Yep.
it's totally different. And I don't understand why we would want to make our places where our children can learn. I don't understand why we would want to make them shooting galleries. I just don't. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Our children deserve better. Our parents deserve better. And I think that if we had the proper regulations in place, we can prevent these things from occurring. Common sense gun reform, and we also can make sure that we protect people in the Second Amendment, because that's important. It is a Second Amendment right. But I don't see how these laws, just in terms of safety, is infringing upon someone's right. And let me say this from a state standpoint. We don't even have a system that punishes people that punishes people who buy guns legally and then sell them to someone else or give them to someone else illegally.
Right.
It's called straw purchasing, and it's wrong. And everyone knows that either from Michigan or from Illinois, or New York, the majority of those guns come from places with lax gun laws. Here in Michigan, the majority of guns that we get come from Ohio, they come from Indiana, they come from Kentucky, they come from Mississippi, and they come from Alabama. And those are places with the worst gun laws, or the most lax gun laws. So they go down there. If you're talking about New York, they call them the Iron Pipeline, I-95, where they go buy those guns and then send them up there in New York. The New York Attorney General's been talking about that. We need a national gun trafficking law. And the fact that we don't have this, that we don't have laws that make it harder, and we also need a federal registry. If we got if we have a registry for driver's licenses and other things and a motor voter law, I don't understand for voting. I don't understand why we can't have a national registry for gun laws. I just don't understand it.
Well, I'll say this, and then I'm gone. Let teachers teach, and let the security handle securing the school.
I agree.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Appreciate your call. Got another caller?
Hello, Mr. Young.
Hey.
I'm glad to hear from you, and I'm glad you're talking about what you're talking about today. We don't need no police being over these children like they want them to be and killing these black children in the city of Detroit, killing them any place. That's not their job. You want it to be a policeman, do your job. As they say, do your job as a policeman.
Like
get these big people off the street and leave these children alone. And we have some people that he's not only going to be killing them, the man that gave him going to give him a chance to do things to other people too in schools. He's going to be our mayor. If this mayor, something happened to him, he will be our mayor. So what else are you going to give him? You might as well give him the whole city. Shoot anybody you want to shoot. Do what you want to do, because I'm going to be behind you. If I'm not here, I'm going to be in front of you, because I'm taking your job if something happens to you. Because you have put it already in fact that if something happens to me, the police chief is going to be the mayor of the city of Detroit. What else could we have in this city? The children don't have anything as it is. Charlie Beckham was over things downtown at the recreation center. He took our recreation center and had it torn down so the children over here don't have no place to go. But you can go farther out with it and build a brand new recreation center and everything else. When do these people wake up in the city of Detroit and stop this stuff from going on? Money is going to be here after you die. And the way people are talking about some of you people downtown, y'all should go and quit now, because you're never going to get back in there. And I hope to God you win. I hope you win. I don't care if it's by one
Me
vote.
too.
No, win in the city of Detroit, because you're the only person that we got that will stick up for the people in the city of Detroit and the children. Don't kill any more children in the city of Detroit. Don't kill any children anywhere. Do your job that you're supposed to do for the police department and take care of drunks and all these people that's using drugs and stuff. And work with our children. Work with somebody like you that's helping these children out. I'm ashamed of these police in the city of Detroit. I call them. They don't come out in this neighborhood because they want this neighborhood now. But it's the point of doing the right thing. Doug and them don't care if you kill these black children. When do y'all wake up in the city of Detroit? A lot of money is going to make y'all do all against this for our children. Something's wrong with you. This money's going to be here.
Well, look, we need to make sure also that
our children are here.
we need to make sure. Well, listen, I agree with you, and I think that's why it's so important for us
It's
to be able
important
to
to me.
curb
I don't
the
know what
illegal
these
gun
other
market.
people are thinking about, and I hope to God you get into office, because I know you're going to do an excellent job like your dad did, and he helped everybody. He didn't pick out certain people. He helped everybody in the city of Detroit and out of the city of Detroit. And I'm so sick of these people in the city of Detroit. For $1, they'll sell their neck. And I'm thank you for taking my call. But all these people that's downtown, the majority of them making all this money, that's all they want is the money. That's all they want is the money. They don't care what you do to these children in the city of Detroit. None of them do. So when do y'all wake up?
Well,
1,000 years away from here when they turn it over to something else? Because our children can't walk the street now if the police aren't stopping them and say, what you got in your pocket? What you got on your arm? That's not what Coleman did. That's not what the police department did before that. Don't let these people do that to our children. We don't have as many children as we should have in the city of Detroit.
Well, I think it comes.
If we keep killing them, we ain't gonna have nobody.
I think it comes to better. So, well, listen, I just want to say I love you, Eastside. I appreciate your phone call.
I love you too. I love anybody that's gonna take care of the city of Detroit and put these children in places where they would be safe at.
All right. Well,
Thank you very much for taking my call.
Appreciate you. Love you, Eastside.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, listen, let me say this too. I think it's also just about building connections with the community. And I think that it's important that we have, different, group activities. I think, it's important. I think Chief Craig trying to do things in the community and have different outreach programs in the community and things of that nature, and district meetings and things of that nature within the community. But I also think it's important that we bring back residency as well. I think that's something that needs to happen. I think that once we got rid of that, you can't have community policing without policing the community. I mean, I remember saying that when I was running, for mayor, and that's something I truly believe in. So that being said, we're going to take another caller.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. I need to make sense because they say my calls are muffled. Are people that elect corrupt politicians are not victims but accomplices? So I hope you get in as well, because I'm not trying to elect or select the corruption.
You keep going in and out. Your phone keep going in and out.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, I said the people that elect corrupt politicians are not victims but accomplices.
Oh, okay.
So I got to vote for you because I'm not trying to vote for no corrupt politicians.
Well, all right.
And I just bid you much luck, and, just keep on letting us know where and how we can support you as well. And we love you. It's a shame that the people that support the NRA are attacking those who do not support it, and they're attacking the poor children that are protesting against and needing and wanting gun reform laws. Thank you for taking my call. Love you all.
Thank you. Love you. Appreciate you. You can call me to volunteer at 313-675-7960. That's 313-675-7960. Caller.
Praise the Lord. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I am so impressed with you, Congressman Coleman Young. I like your program, what you're going to do. You're not asking us to vote for you and not knowing what you're going to do. We know what you're going to do. You have a proven record.
That's right.
And I
12
appreciate
years.
you thinking about the people first. And you've always thought about us first. Money didn't buy you. Corporate didn't buy you. You stood ground and a firm ground for your people. I thank God for you, and I know you're going to do an outstanding job because I love your program. Just get in office like we're going to put you in office and do what you just stated you're going to do. We need to vote for the people that stand for the people, not NRA. I thank you for taking my call, and God bless you and keep you in outstanding health.
Love you. God bless you too. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Mother Watson. Praise the Lord. Hello right there. We got another caller. Caller, you on the air.
Yeah, what you think about the governor's race?
Huh?
What you think about the governor's race? Since a lot of people who endorsed Duggan, now they're going around endorsing that woman. Do you think the Democrats in the state of Michigan is divided? They ain't got no unity. I think the Republicans going to win the governor's race in Michigan.
Well, I think that
they don't have no unity in the Democrat Party in Michigan.
Well, I mean, I think that once this race takes its course and people start to see, I mean, right now, it looks that, Gretchen Whitmer has, the wind to her back. It looks like she's starting to build momentum here a little bit. But, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I think that endorsement, from the mayor is big for her. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I don't think we're necessarily not unified in any way or any way, shape, or form. I think that, this is just the primary process, just, going through its course right now. I think that Gretchen Whitmer is a front runner for right now, but that doesn't mean that can't change. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so we have to wait and see. Have to wait and see what happens and how things are going. I mean, I like some things I'm hearing from Abdul Saeed. I like some things I'm hearing from Bill Cobb. So, we just kind of have to wait and see how this goes. And, everybody will make their decisions in a little bit shortly. You got a little bit of time left for the, before we have to start really making a decision in terms of what happens and all that. So, I think overall, as long as we got a lot of issues, a lot of serious things going on right now in this state. And I think right now, with the Republicans, I mean, they're going to, especially with Brian Calley, I mean, he's really going to have to distance himself from Governor Snyder, particularly with this whole Flint thing. I mean, I think a lot of people are still really upset about that. They're still really upset about what happened and how this whole thing has gone across. I think the issues of jobs, I think the issues of wages, I think the issues of auto insurance, the issues of these roads primarily are going to be like the number one issue. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is trying to avoid these potholes and, make sure their car doesn't get damaged and things of that nature. You got people who are really, literally risking their lives just driving up and down these roads. So I think that's something that's going to be a real critical issue across the state, as well as, like I said, auto insurance, I think is going to be a big issue, as well as, like I said earlier, with Flint and with water in general. I think that's going to be an issue. Education is always something that's going to be out there, particularly higher education, with MSU and what's going on right now. So I don't really see, I just think that the whole Flint legacy and emergency managers, that's kind of hanging over the Republicans' head right now. And how they're going to separate themselves from that. How they're going to separate themselves from the front runner. You haven't really seen them out there really posing with Governor Snyder like that. I mean, you've seen them embrace Donald Trump before you've seen them embrace Governor Snyder, which really tells you all you need to know right now. So it'll play itself out in November and August. All right. Thank you for your call. You got a caller?
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Hey.
Real good. First of all, I'm not voting for anybody because of their color.
Okay.
You got a lot of people running already for governor, which is good. Whoever gets in there, I'm voting Democrat. I'm strictly a Democrat.
All right.
I don't care if it's a Democrat, dog, cat, or bird. That's why I'm voting Democrat. Now, as far as you, son, running for office, you running for, support you. I'm not in your district, but I still can campaign and let people know to vote for Coleman Young Jr. I wish I was able to go to polls and vote for you, but I support you, what you do. Now, as far as all these gun laws, shootings in schools and all this situation, the young man that called Bosco, I agree with him about the doors, put up some steel doors, doors. Most of the Detroit Public got them up now anyway. I retired from Detroit Public School. They got the new doors up there, but then you can't chain them from the inside during school hours. So nobody shouldn't be opening the door other than the main entrance where they should have security guards.
Yeah.
Teachers and principals should not be carrying no guns because I've worked around them and I've seen where they get mad at each other. A lot of them made me mad. Even teachers going with other teachers and then they break up and get mad. You imagine them shooting at each other. They got problems like me. No teachers and ministers should be carrying guns. Get security guards around at the schools and all like that. Pay them. They got the money to throw everything else away on everything. Pay them for that. I don't agree with that. And there was something else I guess I have to call back on. I don't go with this and all this NRA and all that stuff, them gun laws. They for the rich people. I'm glad Walmart, Delta, and all them other people are not them to get discounts or whatever it is. It's stepping up. But don't let teachers and ministers. I wish some educators would call in more educators that work with the school district will call in and give their opinions on it.
Yeah,
Okay,
I agree with you on that. I don't think we should be having teachers carrying guns. But I'll say this too. You're right. I mean, the NRA used to represent gun owners, but they don't anymore. I mean, the majority of gun owners support universal background checks. The majority of America now supports gun control or gun reform. They support that big time now, especially after what happened with Parkland. So, I mean, you know, people support that now more in terms of change. And now the NRA does not really represent the gun owners anymore, so as now as they represent the gun manufacturers. But you even had like the founder of Strom Ruger, who went out there and basically said, you don't need more than like 30 bullets in the gun if you're honest. That's the guy who invented, the founder of Strom Ruger. So we should just listen to what he's saying. You know, so we are when we are in the business of putting profit over people and putting cash over kids, I think that's a sort of corruption that we have to rot out in our society. And the only way we're going to do that is through reforms and through laws being changed and through penalties being paid for anybody who's against serious gun reform. You got a caller? Go ahead. Hello? Caller? Hello?
Go ahead. Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me, Coleman?
Yes.
Okay, yes. How are you today?
Good.
I just wanted to call and say hi. I do support you all the way, 100%. And all my kids was over today. And my granddaughter, which is 8 years old, she said, I want to stay because I want to talk to Senator Coleman Young. She's 8 years old and in the 3rd grade. She wanted to stay and talk to Senator Coleman Young.
Well, that's awesome. I want to talk to her, too.
She told me today that her teacher told her that she had a reading IQ of a 10th grader. So she wants to say hi to you.
Yeah.
Say hi, Caitlin. Hello, Senator Coleman Young.
Hey, Caitlin, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so honored to hear your voice on this program.
Thank you.
What school do you go to?
Redford Service Learning Academy.
Wow. If you got a question or anything you like to ask?
I just love you.
Well, thank you. I love you, too.
I will call again soon.
I look forward to it.
Okay, Coleman, thank you.
Thank you. She sounds so good. She's so articulate and smart.
And I just want to say hello and let her know how very proud I am of her. That's so awesome.
You can't be taking over the show.
That is so awesome.
Love you. Bye. Oh, you leaving now. You going to just take up my time and then leave. I see how you are. The other caller?
Yeah.
Hello?
Senator.
Hey.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. Hey, look, that was awesome for the young girl to
it was.
come on and say what she said. That's the power of our future, our children and grandchildren.
That's right.
Look, can you name 5 things that Brenda Jones has done in 12 years that she's been on the council?
You know what?
Yes or no?
I can name stuff that I done.
No,
I can name that.
I mean, yes or no?
Hey, you tell me, because I ain't even paid that much attention, to be honest with you.
Well,
bro.
look, the reason I asked that
yeah, I don't
this
even.
Congressional race, you see what they're doing. They circling the wagons around you because they're afraid of you getting in there as a senator to represent the people's interests.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, your father, he didn't have a problem defining his opponents, whether they were black or white.
Right.
He came right on out and let them know. And see, that's what you're going to have to do, because none of these folks who are holding elected office, their record cannot match your record.
Well, we're going to let the record speak for itself. I mean, that's what we doing. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and they're gonna be time for us to define everybody else and do what we need to do. But Right now, we gotta define. I gotta define who I am. I gotta let people know what I'm about. I gotta let people know what I am. You know what I'm about. You know about the fact that I passed landmark civil rights legislation.
We all know.
You know about the 10,000 jobs I created and the $300 million I appropriated from Lansing in my district to get things done. No, across the state to get things done. We all know. We all know this, and this is my literature right here that has my record on the front and my appropriations on the back. $2 million of Focus Hope, $500,000 for Charles H. Wright Museum, $300 million from the $6.8 million from the Heat and Heat for Low Income Energy and Heating Assistance for people in the state of Michigan, as well as blight removal for my home rule bill that I passed, energy cost recovery, regulated medical marijuana industry, creating 10,000 jobs, the movie tax credits industry, as well as my historic civil rights legislation, making sure that pregnant women receive mandatory paid leave. I mean, we all know about that. You know what I'm saying? But people out there in the community don't.
Is, can you name 5? Do you know of 5 things? Yes,
you name that, bro. I can't. I ain't gonna even touch that, man. You go ahead, cause I ain't gonna even. If you trying to stump me, you done stump me, bro.
Here's the thing. Brenda Jones, a poll just came out putting her number 1. That's impossible. Okay? There's no way Brenda Jones can come in any poll and be number 1. She can't get 4 votes on the council pass for the interest of the people. Okay? We should not even be considering Brenda Jones sending her across the street, less known to Washington, D.C. Okay? Here's why. The number 1 reason she's been in charge of that skilled trade task force for 12 years. Okay? We can't get 51% of residents trained in skilled trade to get employment in the skilled trade field. Okay?
We need to expand apprenticeships too.
That's right. Okay?
And raise the minimum wage.
Number two,
$15.
She's a liar. All right? I say she's a liar because she could not tell M.L. Elric if her chief of staff was a Detroit resident when she appointed him. The man was standing right next to her. She lied and said that he was. M.L. Elric pulled out a piece of paper and said, hey, how could he be a resident of Detroit when he voted in Oakland County? So if she's lying about an appointment of the chief of staff being a resident of Detroit, what the hell you think she's going to do when she gets to Washington, D.C.? See, this is what I'm saying. This is a clown show.
All right. Okay. Well, listen, we know these are serious times.
Oh, yeah, very
serious matters, and that's why we run it and providing serious solutions.
Well, you got to get real, man, and you got to define your opponent. You cannot run a traditional campaign.
Well, all right, brother. We appreciate you. We thank you so much, man. Thank you for your call. Love you. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Always learn something. Always insightful. You have the caller?
Yes. I'll back. No, first of all, them guns, I was talking about where they shoot 100 rounds, all that kind of stuff, or them AK-7, whatever they are. Those are war guns. Just what they're meant for. To kill in the war.
Right.
Not to go to school or somebody breaking your house and you get a big machine gun.
Multiple people in a short amount of time. That's what those guns are meant to do. They're meant to kill multiple people in a short amount of time.
Okay, one more thing. Don't let anybody call in on your show campaigning somebody else. You know, that's what happens. You start calling somebody's name saying Mr. Smith was running for the same office you are, and they said all you're doing is campaigning for that other person.
That's a good point right there.
If they want to call somebody and call your name out and talk about you, don't name no other people, because they're supporting you, whether you know it or not. I know human behavior. They're supporting that person that they calling their name out.
That's very true. No free press.
Campaign. Oh, you putting it out there? I'm going to hang up and listen.
I appreciate it. Now, I agree with you 110%, man. I want to talk about wages. I want to talk about jobs. You know what I'm saying? I want to talk about protecting people's overtime. They got applied right now. They got rules in D.C. The Labor Department is basically saying they're going to allow people to be able to take their overtime from them. You're talking about 12.5 million workers that will be affected. There's another rule that they put out based on a lawsuit from DC. No, this is something else. Based on the rule they put out that basically is saying that employers will be able to take tips from working people if they make minimum wage, if they work in a profession where that tips. So, you know, your people who work in restaurants, you know, your people who work in you got folks who may be working bars or what have you or whatnot, anything where it's a tipping profession. You know what I mean? They basically be able to take their tips from them if they make minimum wage. I think that's something that's fundamentally wrong. And also there's a move afoot for them to be able in Wall Street to take your pension away from you, because they're changing the fiduciary rule to where where their primary concern is not protecting your retirement and your investment, but making sure they meet their bottom line. Is wrong. And that's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the working man. I'm fighting for the person that got to work 2-3 jobs and can't make ends meet. That's why I'm going to raise the minimum wage to $15. Because no person should work full time and not be able to feed themselves and their families. For that woman that's overworked and underpaid, because she only makes 70 cents on the dollar to everything that a man makes. We need pay equity. And that's what I'm fighting for. Legislation that will make sure that a woman does the same job that a man does, she gets paid the same amount. That's what we about. That's what we up here fighting for. For the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the everyday man, the person that takes a shower after work. I'm fighting to make sure that we keep American jobs here, not send them overseas, and that we start taking tax breaks away from people who send their jobs overseas. And that we also make sure that we go after foreign companies that dump cheap steel and dump cheap aluminum on in this country and manipulate their currency to hurt our workers here. I'm against NAFTA and CAFTA. These free trade agreements have been against the working man. And that's what I stand for. And that's what I'm about. I'm about making sure that we do this by having an independent trade council that can prosecute people who manipulate their currency or who are consistently violating currency laws. That's what I want to do. I also want to make sure that we have an American Jobs Council to make sure that you don't have other companies foreign countries' investment in buying American companies have gone up by 800% since the year 2009. 800%. That's something that's going to be working against our best interests. You'll have China that'll come in, buy a company from America, take the trade secrets that we have against that they learned from buying that company, and then use those secrets against other companies to compete with them. They are very unethical when it comes to doing business and competition. And that's why we're going to have laws to make sure that we hold them accountable and levy sanctions on them. And I agree with Donald Trump in terms of labeling them as currency manipulators. Now, we got to be careful with how we deal with China, because they own the majority of our debt. And so if they call those markers, that could be a lot that could hurt us economically. But enough is enough. And we can't take this line down while American workers are getting kicked in the teeth. And that's what I'm fighting for. I want American jobs for American workers. And damn it, if you're going to spend taxpayer dollars, you need to spend those taxpayer dollars and buy American products, goods, and services. That's why I'm running. We got another caller? Caller? Hello?
Oh, am I? Oh,
you on?
Let me tell you something.
Hey!
I'm impressed with you today. You have come out with your knowledge in certain areas. I like the way you responded to the gun issue and to what you just said a moment ago. I mean, you're well-versed and you know this stuff. You studied it, And this is what I'm talking about. I'd like to see you go forward with that and push with what you did today. And you won't have no problems with no polls or none of the other stuff, okay? Just stay with what you know, and you know the stuff. You've been up there 12 years. You know all these bills and all this stuff that's going on with NAFTA and gun control. I mean, I was definitely impressed with it.
Well, thank you.
I've been watching you for a long time on here, and I think this is the first time I've really seen you come on out straight from the hip. And you know these laws, and you know the regulations, and I don't think anybody else can roll it out there like you. I just don't, because you know what you know, and you've been in the job, and why shouldn't you know it, and why shouldn't you be able to roll it out there? And I'm tired of people going by name recognition and somebody just because they're a millionaire, just because they're a bidder or this. Know your job, and I want somebody that knows what's going on and can hit that floor running. And I think that's what you did today. And if I were you, and I'm not your campaign manager, but I'm going to tell you, you need to stick with what you were saying today, and you'll go straight on up like a bullet. I'm not kidding you.
Well, all right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Love you. Thank you for that call. But that was encouraging. I really appreciate that. That was very nice. We got another caller. Hello?
How you doing, young Junior?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
You know, you're 100% right. You're a man for the job, but what makes me mad, why you got all these ignorant folks jumping in the race when they know they should get behind a candidate like you? Don't mess around here and screw the votes up, and then somebody else get the vote. See, all that's by design. See, folks ought to get their act together, get behind a candidate like yourself instead of splitting the votes up, because what they're doing affects other people.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time.
All right.
Thank you for that, man. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. 110%. Thank you, sir. We got another caller?
Hello.
Hello.
Call back. I told you, you are the next congressman. And look how you handled that young lady. That little young girl calling here. She's going to go to class and tell her teachers.
Yeah.
And everybody going to tell their mothers. You are all awesome. God bless you, baby.
Thank you. Love you. Appreciate you. Thank you. So, yeah, you know, I think that's just important. We got to look out for people who are out here working because people are hurting right now. You know about those people that run out of money before they run out of month. You know about those people that come home and it's either am I going to pay my light bill, am I going to pay my water bill? Am I going to feed my children or am I going to pay my mortgage today? We all know about what's going on. And there's no reason why you have CEOs that are making over 300 times the difference between the CEO and the average worker in this country. I think income inequality is appalling right now. And we need to be, we need to invest in education. That's something that's very important. We need to make sure that we invest more in education, not just in terms of our K through 12, through Title I, through Title II funding for our teachers and training and things of that nature, and professional development that's very important from the federal level, but also for higher education. There's no reason why in the wealthiest country on earth we can't have tuition-free college. There's no reason. And there's no reason why we can't levy a speculation tax on Wall Street for us to be able to have to get $191 billion in order to pay for it. There's no reason why we can't have that. And expand Pell Grants. If we spent as much money on our education system as we spent on these wars, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, we'd be a much different place right now in America. I'm going to take a call. I'm going to talk about that real quick. Call, you on the air, Welcome to Young Effect. Hello? Turn your TV down.
Hello?
Hello?
State Senator Young, I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so thankful that you are not buying into all of that negativism that people call in and talk about. You're talking about what you do.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because that that type of an attitude is what keeps me looking and listening. Because when I listen and all I hear about somebody dogging somebody and beating up on somebody, I turn it off.
Well, thank you.
And I just appreciate you being a professional and dealing with it the way that you're dealing with. And I'm just proud of you. I'm a little citizen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot, you saying that to me.
Okay. And I look to see you next Sunday.
You will certainly will.
Okay.
Love
Bye-bye.
you. Bye now. We got another caller? Okay. And that's what I'm saying in terms of these wars. Look, we spend more on the military in this country than the other 10 countries behind us combined. Combined. Think about that for a minute. And we're going after enemies in the Middle East, particularly within Iraq. Remember, when we invaded Iraq, that is what was the catalyst for ISIS, because ISIS is nothing more but the former standing army of Iraq. Not to mention also the fact that we really didn't go after the number one enemy in terms of 9/11 that faced us, which was Saudi Arabians. And the reason why that is because Saudi Arabia practices a very extreme form of Islam, which is Wahhabism, which basically teaches people to hate America, death to America, and things of that nature. That's why we had that as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned. But the reason why we can't go after them was because of our oil interests ever since the House of Saud. So the oil interests that we have, that's why we need to be energy independent. That's why we need to invest in wind, solar, electric, biodiesel, hydroelectric, and alternative energy of the future. So we no longer have to depend on that relationship. But also we need to have a serious conversation with Saudi Arabia about Wahhabism and about them funding parliament, and about them funding terrorism, And that comes from the European Parliament. We know that. We know about the issue. Now listen, I'm not saying that. I personally believe that America's role as a global policeman is coming to an end. I don't think that we can be policing all these countries and trying to spread, or manifest destiny or spread democracy throughout all these nations. I don't think that's what our role is. I think that we can support other nations in terms of the kind of nation that they want to be, but I think ultimately that's going to be up to them. And I know that a lot of what's happening in the Middle East now happened because of the Arab Spring. So I know that a lot of these dictators that were pushed out of power in Egypt and other such places was because of that. Now, that's not what happened in Syria. You had the uprising in Syria, but they did not get rid of Bashir Assad. Now, we did have the Chemical Weapons Commission that said that that made him admit he does have chemical weapons. And he violated that line by dropping chemical bombs on his own people. But chlorine bombs was on people. But what we did not understand is that a lot of those bombs came from North Korea. They were smuggled in from North Korea. So now what we have a whole lot of different factions working together. You have the Russians that are also over there working with the Syrians right now because he's trying to, because Vladimir Putin is trying to assume the new Cold War, to assume Russia's stance globally and trying to become a major geopolitical player. But I really think that's why it's important for us to be able to levy sanctions on Russia and also enforce the sanctions we already levied, on top of levying sanctions on their troll farms, and making sure that we have voter paper backups so they can no longer be able to hack and be involved in our elections, because that's basically what happened, as well as making sure that we upgrade our digital apparatus to make sure that we also can levy cyber attacks as well in terms of those elections. That's something that I think is very important, in terms of levying sanctions on them and levying sanctions on North Korea as well, and making sure that we have a special envoy there and we build the diplomatic apparatus we need. But you have to be careful because China has been funding North Korea. Now they stopped, China has stopped exporting oil to North Korea, and Russia has taken up that slack because they are the number one natural gas exporter in the country. That's why I think what we should do is we should sanction Russia, and then on sanction Russia, we should open up our oil reserves and our natural gas reserves to the European nations so we can replace Russia in terms of exports to Europe and also cripple them economically as well. And I think that'll also not only cripple Russia, but I also think that'll hurt North Korea as well. And we also need to make sure that we build a ground mid-course defense. That's a missile that they would shoot in order to stop a nuclear missile if that would occur. Now, they've had some tests, and most of the tests failed, but 2 recent ones passed. So I think that we do that, as well as make sure that we implement our terminal high-altitude area defense system for our missile shields. I think we'll go a lot better. But that is all I have on foreign policy. Look, remember, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. I'm Coleman Alexander Young II, your state senator, soon to be your next congressman of the 13th District. Love you. God bless you. We'll see you next time right here on The Young Effect.